Hi, everybody. Welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. Had a weird thing happen last night. Want to share just a spiritual experience. I do that from time to time on the channel. It is primarily a second coming channel. You know, we watch for signs of the times, we read scriptures and the words of the prophets and try and understand prophecy and do all this stuff. But it's not just that, it's a spiritual channel, and I like to share spiritual things. And from time to time, I have these experiences that I feel are appropriate to share publicly because they're not too personal. We always want to be careful with that, of course, right? But so as you know, went to the eclipse. That was not, yesterday was Monday. It was a week before yesterday, the previous Monday. And ever since that time, I've kind of been on this spiritual high, even until now. It's still happening. But some crazy things have happened since that time. So the following Friday, our car broke down. We were on our way to Walmart. We were in between towns. We were probably about 20 to 30 minutes away from Walmart. We were just kind of out in the middle of nowhere on this highway. And I did a live stream. I think a lot of you saw that. And it was weird because, it was just 5 days after the eclipse. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this some kind of like attack from the adversary? And it could have been, I don't know. It could have just been a test, an obstacle. I kind of like went over how I thought that could be, because last year I had a really bad year. In this year, it's been a good year. I've had some obstacles like this one, but I've been just doing better at, rising to the challenge and overcoming these things and maintaining my composure and not losing my mind. And so, with this particular thing, the car broke down. Instantly, there were these two mechanics that stopped and they looked the car over. They couldn't figure out what was wrong, but they helped me get it off the main highway and off onto a dirt road. And where we had broke down was the only place on that highway, that stretch of road, where there was a power pole that had a light, which at that point I was starting to think, okay, something is happening here. I don't know if people need to see this live stream and maybe it's going to help somebody, which it actually did, according to a couple of you. So I'm very grateful for that. But I think there's more. And just everything went very smoothly. Okay. So that experience, it came and went, then just continued living my life. And then yesterday, Monday, my phone, by the way, with the car, we just got word today that basically it's done. It was the timing belt. So we're going to trash it. It's done. It's the end of an era. We've had this car ever since 2011, back when we were living in Salt Lake City in the avenues, on First Avenue, which is basically like if you walk down First Avenue heading west, if you kept walking straight, you'd run into the temple. It was a really cool place to live. But, we had this era come to a close. We lived with that car. We lived in Salt Lake, moved to Arizona, joined the Army, came back to Arizona, and then moved here to Kansas. And we've been here for a few years now. And now the story is over with this car. It's been to all these different places. Well, anyway, yesterday, as I was in bed, we were watching our shows. My phone started acting up, and it was just being all glitchy and spazzy and stuff. It was just crazy, kept restarting, and I was just like, you know what, I guess it's time to get a new phone. And so today, the reason, and by the way, I'm recording this on Tuesday night, but I'm going to post it on Wednesday morning. So today, that's why there was only the one video that I did. It's because I had to get a new phone, and the one that I wanted to get, it wasn't anywhere around here. It's a Google Pixel 8 Pro. And so I guess they're kind of hard to get. So we had to drive all the way down to Oklahoma City and then back to get it. So it took up most of the day. But I'm glad that I did, because I'm going to use it for the channel. So I want those extra capabilities that it has. But anyway, it was just weird because, this phone, I got it here when we first moved here to Kansas. And it's kind of, I don't know if it's the end of an era, but I've had it since the beginning, since we moved here until now. And you have these two things that broke down at the same time, shortly after having this eclipse experience and going to the Kirtland Temple. And you might think that it's silly. I just want to remind you, I think people receive personal revelation in different ways. Some of you, as I'm saying this, it makes perfect sense to you. You would have the same thoughts as me because that's how the Lord speaks to you. We recognize this way of communication, but for others it may be different. And so when you hear people like me sharing an experience like this, you may think that it's silly because that's not how you receive your personal revelation. It could also be that you just simply don't receive personal revelation because you ignore it. You don't ask for it. You don't pray. When the Lord does give you signs or answers to prayers, you ignore it because essentially you expect him to like do all these like tricks and jump through hoops and do spectacular things before you'll accept it as him talking to you. And that's really sad if that's where you're at. But the Lord speaks to his children in different ways. So any two people that you take, they may receive personal revelation in slightly different ways. But anyway, I was looking at this, the fact that I had these two things break down, like pretty important things. One is a way to travel and get around. The other one is for communication. And they both kind of represent these two eras. In the case of the car, from, like I said, from Utah to Arizona to Texas to Arizona and now to Kansas, like this big thing that we've done in our marriage. Before that, I had grown up in Utah. That was always my home up until that point. And then the phone kind of like bracketing this like period of time that we've lived in Kansas. And so I was thinking about it and just thinking, what this could imply. And I don't know yet. I'm probably just going to have to wait and see. And maybe it's just personal in nature. I'll give you a follow-up if it's, if it's not too personal. But these are the kind of things that I don't think that we should ignore because it's just the timing is really weird that those two things would break when they did, so close together within days of each other, in just about a week after General Conference and the eclipse. Now, in my case, what I'm kind of thinking right now is it reminds me of when we lived in Arizona before we moved here. We were trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? It's time for us to buy a house, and we were searching all over the West. Everywhere is too expensive because we wanted land. And so we started, looking east, looking at Texas, looking at Oklahoma, Missouri, Kansas, Arkansas. And we felt comfortable with Kansas, right? And through the whole process of looking at homes in Kansas, we kept asking for guidance and is this really the right place to move? Because this is like way outside what we would have expected for our life to move to Kansas. Like I never thought I'd ever leave the Southwest. I didn't want to leave. I wanted to like stay in Arizona, frankly. And if it couldn't be Arizona, then maybe Vegas or maybe, well, not for a homestead, but I'd be comfortable in Vegas or Utah or whatever. So, we really spent a lot of time on our knees, asked for confirmation if this was the right choice, after thinking about it, working through, if this would be good for us, going to the Lord and asking him for confirmation. And one of those confirmations had to do with something that broke. So in Arizona, my dad had passed away just a couple years before. And so we took my mom in and she lived with us for the couple of years that we were in Arizona the second time. And she already had a TV that she was going to have for her room. We had a TV for downstairs in the living room. And then she had their first smart TV. And she's like, you know what, you take this TV, like, it's just going to go to waste. Just have it in the master bedroom with you and you guys can enjoy it. And so we did for a while. We had our son when he became a toddler. One day he was like, kind of like hanging on the drawers of the dresser that we had it on, and the TV wasn't secured to the wall and it fell, and it didn't miss him. It wouldn't have hit him. You'd have to see how the setup was. There wasn't really any danger of that, but it hit the foot of our bed and it broke, and it just felt like a disaster. You get that like bad feeling. It's like, oh my gosh, like when something like that happens. So we're like, okay, well, whatever. The TV was old. Maybe it's time to get a new TV anyway. This was actually the first smart TV I had ever seen. When my dad was still alive, it was the first one that I had seen. We hadn't bought one for ourselves yet, and I thought it was really cool. But then it broke. And so we went to go look for a replacement, and we settled on a brand that we wanted to get a TV with. And it just so happened that the box, like the images on the box, was of like the TV screen and showing the weather. And the example that it had was for Kansas City, Kansas. And that was unusual to me because usually whenever you think of Kansas City, it's usually referring to Kansas City, Missouri. That's where the main downtown area is. It's everything, the entire metro area is centered on downtown Kansas City, Missouri, and that's the more populated side. But the Kansas City area is on the border of Missouri and Kansas. And on the Kansas side, there is another city called Kansas City, Kansas. And that's what they chose for this box, which to me is kind of an unusual choice. If you're going to go with Kansas City, you'd probably just do Kansas City, Missouri. And so for us, it was a confirmation that, yeah, Kansas is right, because we were kind of considering Missouri. But it was just like a sweet little confirmation among many other ones. We didn't just base our decision just on that. There were many other things, and it just got more and more solid. Like, yes, Kansas is where you should go. So in that case, we talked about it, and we were like, you know what? A TV is something that you watch, and television, like a vision, not that you're having visions through your TV, but it's something that you watch with your eyes. And this broke, and now we're getting a new TV. It's larger, higher resolution, more updated. It's like a clearer vision, more high definition, So like metaphorically, going from our life before Kansas, which was all kind of preparatory for where we're at now, and then coming here and having this like new vision, this new life, homesteading, and getting into my graphic design career, and also doing YouTube. And I think YouTube is actually a big part of us coming here. So that's kind of how we interpreted that experience in Arizona. And now here we are, just within the last few days, we've had these two other breakdowns. Very unusual timing with these breakdowns, just a couple days apart. So I don't know what that means. Remember, when we receive revelation, it's personal. Like, I don't receive revelation for the church, so I'm not going to say something like, oh, this means bad things are coming for the church, because that's not my runway. Just like Elder Renlund said in that general conference talk called A Framework for Personal Revelation. I feel a little bit scared or worried that it seems like there's people that think that they do receive revelation for the church or for the world, when they don't. That's not your runway. Your runway is for your personal life. So the reason why I'm sharing this is I'm hoping that maybe it'll give you inspiration to listen to your own revelation, to not ignore signs that the Lord puts in your own life. If you're one that tends to like dismiss these things, don't. When it happens, it's not on you to like necessarily figure out like, oh, is this a sign or not? Pray about it. Be like, was that a sign? Get confirmation when things like this happen, and the Lord will confirm signs. In my case, I feel like whenever I do that, I get more signs. And it's just like the talk by, I'm not going to put it on the screen, but a talk this last conference by Elder Alexander Dushku called Pillars and Rays. And there's a part in it that really stuck out to me. He says, but we must be wary of a spiritual trap. Sometimes faithful church members become discouraged and even drift away because they haven't had overwhelming spiritual experiences, because they haven't experienced their own pillar of light. President Spencer W. Kimball warned, always expecting the spectacular. And that's something that we've talked about. That's been one of the themes of this channel, whether it has to do with prophecy or personal revelation, just expecting the spectacular. Okay, President Spencer W. Kimball. Always expecting the spectacular, many will miss entirely the constant flow of revealed communication. So the context of this talk, it's about answers to prayers and receiving personal revelation, and how, just like President Kimball said, it's constant, but it usually comes in small pieces. And then Elder Dushku said that, once you have all these like rays of light, it becomes a pillar of light that you experience when you put it all together. So that's, what I was talking about, receiving signs, asking for more confirmation, but not to the point where you're like, it's just like being appropriately sure with the Lord that whatever action or decision you're about to make, is solid and a good idea. So, but anyway, in this case, this is different from when the TV broke, because in this case, we had two things that broke at the same time. And so I feel like the more you have, like when you have like a cluster of signs, it makes me think about, the Lord's word being confirmed or verified by 2 or 3 witnesses. I'm paraphrasing. I can't remember the exact wording, but everything being confirmed by 2 or 3 witnesses. So this is something that I'm going to pay attention to. I wouldn't be surprised if it had something to do with, moving on into a new phase of my life, or YouTube, or something like that, but I feel very good. I feel very peaceful. I know that things are happening the way that they need to. You could have like the worldly view and be like, oh, this is, look at my misfortune. Now we have to pay this much money. Now we have to do this. But I'm actually, if anything, I feel excited. Like, yes, we're going to have to, spend money to get a new car. We're just going to buy a car with cash. Hopefully get it next month, and make do with just the one car for right now. But I feel good. I feel like like the Lord has communicated with me, and I don't have the full meaning yet, but I know that I will soon. So anyway, you guys work those muscles. I know a lot of you already do. A lot of you share your experiences in the comments, and you send me emails. And I'm sorry when I can't get to all the comments and emails. There's literally thousands of them, and I'm just one person. But I do see it, and I know that a lot of you experience it too. And again, if you don't, then please start exercising that muscle. Start trusting and believing. And I'm not saying just like trust any old thing. The reason why this sticks out to me is that they broke at around the same time. That's weird. Like, yeah, that could happen coincidentally, but I don't think that's what it was. I felt the Spirit, there were other things attending this. Like I said, where we broke down, we immediately had help. And then we were in the one place on the highway where there was a light. Otherwise, we would have been sitting there in, pitch dark until our friends arrived and until the tow truck arrived. So for me, it's just too much. It felt very merciful, and it felt like the Lord was communicating something. So I just wanted to share that with you. He is there. He speaks with us continually if we listen, and we record these things. I think it's also important to record them and remember them, refer back to them. And if we do that, then I think he tends to bless us with more guidance. So, all right, well, that's going to be it for this one. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.